Morning, everybody. Welcome to this live edition of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Jennifer Colombo. Jennifer, I've been really excited to talk to you. One of my favorite things in life is a cookie and a great scone. And I was fortunate enough to be introduced to you a few weeks back, and you dropped off some scones to my family. And we had just finished dinner. And we were all saying, God, we feel like something sweet, and we had nothing sweet in our house. And and I got a text from you that said, hey, I just dropped off a bunch of scones at your front door. And my wife and I, my son, my daughter, we devoured all of them. They were the best scones I ever had. So I thought I couldn't wait to get you on the show because you ship them nationwide. And I legit, like, everyone in my family was flipping over them. I mean, the 3 packages of how many are in each package?
6 in a package.
6 in a package. So 18 scones were gone in about 2.5 days. That's because we kind of only because we resisted a little bit. I think we could have finished them that night. You're an entrepreneur. You're a baker. You are the owner of Just Delicious Scones, the Royal Treat Tea Room, and the Pink House Tea Room. You are an incredible entrepreneur. Talented in so many areas. You can roll up your sleeves and make the scones, even though you have a team that, does it for you. You ship them nationwide, and you're doing great things. So I want to kind of, I really want to jump into, how does somebody get into the scone business? There's so many. You go down the aisles of a grocery store, and there are so many cookies and so many treats, and you go online and it's like everybody's like selling a cookie. It just is such a competitive space. And it always has been a competitive space. And so and I think a lot of people sometimes, have these gifts and have great things, but they think the market is too saturated. I just can't jump in. You jumped in and have continue to grow a thriving business. So I just want to kind of rewind. Right. You've been doing this, I think, for 25, 30 years.
Yep.
How did you decide to step into such a market?
Well, just like any other entrepreneur, you see a need. So I had a coffee shop, and I was a young new business owner, and I knew that there weren't any. So I'd been to Europe. I had them there. They weren't making them here. And you couldn't really buy anything wholesale at that time. That wasn't really a big thing back then. And, businesses were making all their own goods. Generally, small business.
And Starbucks wasn't around, so it's not. I know people will buy a scone at Starbucks, but before Starbucks, I don't know any of us knew about a scone.
No, and most people didn't. So the travelers did, people that went to Europe a lot, but I just knew that it was something that was going to be really delicious. My business was called Cappuccino, and we were making cappuccinos before Starbucks showed up. So it was really a kind of a cool business. So I did a lot of research. I'd had them. And I wanted to make the best scone I could possibly make. So I picked all the best ingredients out of everything I could find and created this gigantic scone that I would cut in big pie slices, not even knowing that that was just a gigantic version of what would originally be served that way. And the customers started lining up, and I kept making it. So I incorporated them into the catering business I had, the coffee shop I had, and everybody that I could possibly give a sample to. I wanted everybody to try them. So the first one was the cranberry apricot. And it has been a 25-year standing flavor that we're still making exactly that same way. So I felt there was a need for it, and I made it for myself, and then I incorporated it into every little thing I could think of.
Yeah.
And also those funny little heart shapes, which I was made fun of back then.
Yeah.
That why would you make something silly like a heart out of something like that? And to this day, almost all of our scones, and maybe going forward, all of them will be hearts, because you can see that's a Just Delicious scone. There's nothing else like it. So I like kind of standing out, and doing something a little crazy.
Yeah. And is there deeper meaning of it? I always look I love when I talk to entrepreneurs, the hidden messages and things that they do. And so what's kind of the hidden message in your heart shaped?
It was everything that I ever baked kind of met a memory of my clients. Mm-hmm. So I had this gift of making something that would reach something your mother, your grandmother made. It reaches the senses, and it goes really deep. So when you touch on those notes, people find such joy. So I've always discovered that the things that I made, my goal was to find the joy in what people's past history and where they come from. And my family is way back Scotland, Ireland. So it was England. That was where my family came from. So it's kind of, I guess, a natural thing. I didn't even realize what ended up being my life story. It was about a scone.
I love it.
Consequently, that original recipe that I came up with, 25 years later, I only discovered that it was in my grandmother's cookbook, a very old cookbook. I opened it up and thought I couldn't believe that the recipe was almost identical.
Almost like it was
pretty fun.
Yeah, almost like it was channeled to you, like the universe kind of,
natural.
Absolutely. I love that. And food connects people, right? I mean, you know, people talk about breaking bread and meeting for coffee, and you know, there's nothing that connects people more than food. And I think that's one of the things COVID has, you know, really kind of, you know, people can feel that emotional disconnect of not being able to sit across the table from someone and have a meal or coffee. But when you send somebody a scone, I think, I'll tell you, it really replicated it for us and our family. I mean, we all really loved them. And so, you know, I know you ship nationwide, you're in 65 grocery stores. You know, what is it about when you get a scone in the mail and somebody says, oh, I'm surprised they sent me a scone and not a chocolate chip cookie, but then they try it and then that experience is so much better than maybe they thought?
Yeah, it was intended to be a gift. So my scone was actually meant to say thank you, or to say thank you to yourself, or to have this pleasure. So that's the reason why they're wrapped even in a bow. But to set yourself out, like in the business world, you want to set yourself out and be the one that stands out. So our scone is the only thing in a grocery store in general that is wrapped in a bow. So you buy something at the grocery store that you could actually present as a gift. And that was meant to, it was intentional, but it was also had so many ways to share. So my business was all about sharing and giving as well. So in the beginning, I mean, really for the first 10 years, I probably gave it all away. You know, if I could give, I would open the trunk of my car to deliver scones to a grocery store and give them to the people in the parking lot, put them in their baskets when they're loading their groceries. I always thought people probably thought I was bananas, that I would do something so outrageous, but you would be surprised how much a person appreciates the genuine love of something that you do. And I think it definitely reflects in my business. But I have only just made something to make something good happen for you. So the places, the tea rooms were intended for you to have a good event. And I just created the space, and I created the taste that you would remember it by, and that you would connect to your family. And so now, after 25 years, having the first event I did, somebody's first wedding, I did their showers, I did their christenings, I took care of the children. And then now, 25 years later, I'm doing their kids' weddings. So I did stop catering, but the scones have actually been a part of people's traditions now for 25 years. So when they come in, they've always been on the Thanksgiving table, or they've always been there for Christmas. And people sent, when their kids come home from college, or when they send college gifts, they would send them the scones to remind them of home. So I feel very, very, very fortunate to have built a brand that's loved, and that's that has that much substance. There's a lot that goes with it.
I love everything you're talking about. It's, you know, the marketing, you know, is so brilliant, right? And it's so simple, it's complicated, right? Put a bow on it when everything is packaged so commercially at a grocery store. So you can use it as a gift. You don't have to go to a gift shop to get a gift. That is so I love that. I want to talk to you a little bit about how you grow a national scone business, right? So you have a scone, you start shipping it, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're shipping it nationwide, right? Because I really believe, and I shared this with you, and I said this the other day when we were talking, my family are clients for life. I will always buy these scones. I mean, there's 11 more flavors. We only had 3, but they were so good. And I can see us buying every couple months, a bunch of bags to have in the house and buy them as gifts because they're that good. And so, but I think in today's world, everybody's looking to grow overnight. Everybody's looking to do something viral. And you have seen things happen and grow organically as you grew nationwide. And so what were the 1 or 2, 3 things that you did that really kind of kept you patient, and that you know, on top of the marketing things that you were doing, that kept you kind of forward thinking on how to really kind of build your brand?
I think it's really the vision that an entrepreneur has. And as you create your next step, it may be something that you put on the shelf for a moment, or but I see it at the end. Like, my goal would be that everybody in the world would taste them. If I knew that if they would taste them, they would love them. So the goal is to get them to try. So while you're a customer of mine, I gave her a bag of scones. She bought a couple extras. She took them all the way to Italy. She stood in front of the Coliseum and sent a picture to me to show me that she had got them to her family. And it's amazing the love that they have for the company, the brand, the scones, and maybe me. I mean, I just adore my customers. But it was really about seeing the vision. Now, I've yet to figure out how to get them on somebody's truck to go and deliver them on the ground. So the internet is fantastic, because then we ship them, and I would do big events in New York for Goldman Sachs. And that was something that I actually made happen. So I delivered 8,000 scones to Washington, D.C. So, you know, they were in the White House. It was amazing. I mean, they were in the, they were the capital. So because of that, people from New York were, I need those scones again. And then they were buying them. And then they were sending them to their families in Arizona. And I had somebody stand in line in Las Vegas next to a stranger, because he couldn't help saying hi to strangers. And she had just been at my shop the day before buying scones. And I sent him to Vegas with some scones. So how does that happen? It's a lot of vision, and it's a lot of seeing how you mentally and physically picture your product getting to that goal. And then you figure out the steps then. So you have to visualize it. You have to have that goal in mind, and then see just where it goes. But you have to be really careful and not do things that put a lot of money out there before you realize that that's the direction to go in at the time. So who would have known that all of us business owners would have to survive a year of not seeing your customers? You know, that they weren't there, your stores were empty, the tea rooms were quiet. How do you then decide that your brand has to get to them, and how's that going to look? So then, then shipping took its, we were sort of staged for it, and all of a sudden the boxes were moving. All of a sudden the mailman was piled up with stuff, his truck was filled. Well, that happened because of the pandemic. But then we all learned from it. That's really a business that we should think of going forward, because things won't change for a very long time. We may have some guests in the tea room, but people are still going to be home. So, and then having these campaigns, like, if you could imagine, we would have everybody come to the store and pick up this one good idea. So I'm always the one who will think, I'm going to do this thing, like royal wedding scones. The royal wedding. So I decided one day that I was making royal wedding scones. So I called the newspaper. Well, that's kind of funny. Kids would laugh at you, like, call the newspaper. Yeah, there was actually a newspaper that was writing articles at the time. And I said, I'm doing this. They came and took photographs. The next morning, it's on the front page of the Macomb Daily next to the New York Times with the wedding couple. Well, that was pretty awesome. So I imagined that I could do something to fit myself into that event. So I think a lot of the sales part, a lot about seeing my brand fit into things, is a lot about that imagination, and then the guts to do it, even if you feel really silly. And you're a ridiculous human that would do something so silly as to call the paper and think that they'd want to come see you. Consequently, they were looking for a story. So it's that strange thing that we do as entrepreneurs, I think.
Yeah, well, I love the story about your proactiveness, and how you're talking about how you need to pivot in real time, and really keep the vision in front and center all the time, while manifesting at the same time, right? And always kind of really, I think a great entrepreneur, which is what you're defining right now, is somebody who's always reinventing, right? Looking at the plan B and C before there's a COVID, right? I think right now we're seeing entrepreneurs, and I see this as a business coach, many companies didn't have, they didn't have time to think about a plan B or C. Now it's a standard. You have to be thinking plan A, plan B, plan C. You have to be able to read, no pun intended, the tea leaves, and see kind of like, okay, where are we going? And can I get in front of where I need to pivot? But you bring up a really good point of keeping the vision front and center. And I think that's important for every company all over the world. companies need to keep their vision, in front of people every day and talk about it every day and put it in the thread of what they do. Because then, like you're talking about, great ideas begin to surface. You then have to execute on them. Manifesting doesn't just happen if you're sitting around doing nothing.
No, so, absolutely not. And being very in tune, to what's happening around you. Now, you have said something to me as a coach that was valuable information. As us creative thinkers that really explode with ideas on a daily basis, giving a little bit of a time scheduled in a day to focus on those new ideas, but only giving them a little time to keep the movement towards your goals. But maybe that's not something right now. And what I found in the pastry business or in the food people business over the last year is to survive my mental state, to keep positive and get through it. I had to do some real physical things to bring the customers as close as I could to drive my energy. So the energy for me to do this business without the customers is very, very challenging. I mean, it's that tangible love that you feel, you see and feel they're around, and you're causing joy. Well, separate them from you and you're a little bit lost. So I was thinking of every way to get my hands back into the dough, start creating things that would bring them as close as they could be to me, whether or not it was going back to creating again. So that's what I did too. I spent a couple weeks making the scones again with my own hands and with my own ideas, and kind of going ground zero again with the business, and then building it up again in my mind, like what needs to change, like how can I see these doing something more. And they're always moving, so your business is constantly moving. And it's really important to keep yourself really well and stable, and visionary is important, but you also have to have that tangible change. You have to be able to touch it in a lot of ways.
What I love about what you're talking about is you, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you need to get to the point where you're delegating and having a team to do things for you, so you can't touch everything. That being said, sometimes I think business owners, managers, people get too far away from the business, right? It's like when you become a manager or an executive, you're almost dealing with so much stuff, you get away from the business. So what I love what you're talking about is you took a moment to kind of get back to the fundamentals and the base of the business, get your hands dirty, to kind of get back to the bedrock, kind of make sure the heart was still there, and then move back up and delegate. I love it.
And I did feel very much back in control. I felt that I was back into understanding that my business was still the way I needed it to be from scratch. So you have to look over that and see that by, the telephone game, when you say those little words, it changes. Things will change through people. So as I've had, I have 16 people working in the kitchen. Everybody puts their little thing in it. So are they still making the scones? Are they still putting orange rind in the glaze of the cherry almond, or the cherry white chocolate? So I discovered that there are glitches and things have altered, and we want to put them back to the original, way they're supposed to be made. This is really important. And I suppose it's with any business, your basic ground, that you built it on is the one that was successful. So don't let anybody change that. Sometimes you have to dip back in and send your staff home and get dirty again. And I thought for me, it was a very, it was really important and gave me a lot of new energy that I needed to get through.
You really define, and I see this as a business coach, and I coach people all over the world. And I don't say that to impress anybody, but to impress upon the following: the best leaders, the best companies, the best business people, the best people within a company are the people that love what they do, put their heart into it, have their soul into it, and are in complete alignment with what they're doing. And you define that, and I mean everything that you're talking about, and it shows in the scone. I mean the taste, they're really unbelievable. If my wife and kids were up right now, school doesn't start for 7 minutes, so they're still sleeping up until the school in the Zoom bell rings. But it's been great. I can't emphasize enough. Before I move into a quick speed round, Jennifer, I want to talk about what great gifts I think these are for people in Zoom meetings, right? And we've talked a little bit about giving. You're talking about giving the gift and giving this, but what a great gift to give while we're talking to each other, and while all these people are having so many meetings and they're kind of going through Zoom fatigue, right?
Oh, yes.
Talk
Absolutely.
about how a scone can kind of, change the game.
Yes. And so so we talk again about inventing your next move or fitting yourself into something. So while we had a Zoom meeting planned, I'm thinking to myself, this guy doesn't know what my scones are like. So he doesn't have the flavor of my business. And so I need to get that in front of him so that conversation is different. But one of the other things wasn't just for you to try the scones. It was for you to warm up to my conversation with you and to get to know you and sort of connect that way. So I'm not saying everybody has a scone to throw around, but what I'm saying is that I saw that not only for our meeting, but that other people could break the ice in a way that you're reaching somebody's, their senses. You're saying hello. It's a friendly thank you for being a part of this meeting. And I imagined that if people sent just a little gift, some tea, a bag of tea, my scones, and they received that gift on the other end, your conversation is starting off at a way different platform.
Yeah.
And I find it very challenging. I'm not a person, and there's a lot of us out there that don't like the computer all that much. I like people. I'm a home style girl. So for me to bring my baked good or something that I created to the other person and know that they're getting it, that helps me. But it also can make somebody else feel just really grateful and thank you for that moment. Thank you for meeting with me. Here's something just to start our conversation.
Yeah.
And I felt that it was a brilliant idea. Yeah. And I'm sort of going in that direction of how can I create that? So that was definitely, those are those little survival tactics, or how can I fit myself into somebody else's plan, somebody else's day.
I love it. All right, Jennifer, you ready for a quick speed round?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Oh gosh, that's supposed to be fast. I don't know. No, I don't. I can skip. Next one. I'll come back to that one.
Favorite book and why?
Nope, skip. I'm not good under stress.
All right. Then we won't do it. We'll skip the speed round and we'll go to this.
I get nervous when they do this on the radio.
Most popular scone.
Oh, cherry almond. If I made that every day, I would be extremely wealthy. Cherry almond.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
That was my wife's favorite was the cherry almond. That was my.
That was the catch. That was the one to get you to be a lifetimer.
Cherry almond was unbelievable. I love lemon, so I love the lemon. And then I love nutmeg. And so the other one was, I can't remember, what was the one you gave me? The ginger nutmeg.
So cranberry apricot has cinnamon and nutmeg and orange rind in it.
That was great.
Oh, best wisdom, the thing I ever found, the interview. The best advice, the interview. When you speak to any person, it's the interview that you create that relationship, that person in front of you, and everything that's in front of you is by the interview. You want to engage in that person in front of you, and that is how you start anything. That's the best advice I've had.
That's great. And finish this sentence. What is one thing people need to do to open up their awareness to begin manifesting?
I think you need to be calm enough to see the things that are happening to get your attention. Yeah. So if you're creating and you're interviewing and you're aware and you're looking up and out, you're going to see what's asking you to go that direction. So you have to be aware. You have to open yourself up. Stop looking at the phone and look out into the sky, and you can see your vision. You can see your direction happening, but you've got to pick up on the people around you that are sharing and giving you these good gifts, these good directions. It's all there.
Amen to that.
Pay attention. Yeah.
Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, your ideal clients, and everything else.
Well, my ideal clients are you guys, all of you. And justdeliciouscones.com is going to take you to every part of our business. It's going to tell you about the B&B I built, the 2 tea rooms, the scones you can buy online. It'll tell you all the ways, the grocery stores, every one of them that you can go and maintain your new habit. And you certainly can reach out and email me, jenscones@live.com. Let me know, or through our hello@justdeliciouscones, and let me know what you think. And I'm always game for giving away a free scone. If any of you have watched this and you come into either one of the tea rooms, because they're also retail stores, and say that you saw me, you can have a free scone walking right there in the door.
All right.
Any new customer gets a free scone.
I love it. Jennifer Colombo, you're an amazing entrepreneur, amazing human being, amazing baker, owner of JustDeliciousScones.com, the Royal Treat Tea Room, and the Pink House Tea Room. You ship nationwide, and you're bringing a lot of joy to people in what you created. Thank you for being on the show, sharing your journey, your story, your love, your heart. I appreciate it all. Everybody, JustDeliciousScones.com, the best scones my family's ever had. Try them out. Thanks everybody for listening. If Jennifer can help you, check her out at JustDeliciousScones.com. Jennifer, thanks very much. Everybody, thanks. Have an awesome day.
Thank you very much. It was a great day. Thanks for having me.